Hi, this is Brennan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and I'm here with Adam Balderstone for another episode of Bedrock and Balderstone. And today we're going to be talking about Farscape, episode, what is it, episode 3 of season 2 and episode 4 of season 2, is that right?
I believe it's 3 and 4. Yes.
So taking the stone and crackers don't matter. Um, So it's been a while, so we're going to jump back into it. I know I don't remember when we talked about Farscape last, but it's been some time. But it kind of felt like it was yesterday when I sat down to watch this the other day. So that was kind of nice.
I was
Um,
wondering how that would be. I was like, are you gonna still be in it or?
yeah, no, I mean, at first I was like, wait, who's that character's name again? And I was like, oh, yeah, it's Chiana. Do you know what I mean? Like, it took a
Uh,
second for things to click. But once it got going, like, the show has fairly easy to follow character dynamics. Do you know what I mean? So it's like I
yeah.
don't need, I don't. Sometimes when you watch certain shows, it's like, oh, I got to go back and rewatch season one just to even follow what's going on, and that wasn't the case here. Like I'm sure if I went back and rewatched season one, there would be added value, but it wasn't
Yeah.
necessary. So, I
Yeah.
still enjoyed it, and the things that were important, I think I remembered. So yeah, I don't know. Do you want to give people the rundown of Taking the Stone?
Taking the Stone is an episode where Chiana kind of freaks out and leaves the ship. She steals Aaron's prowler and goes down to some grave planet where there's a bunch of basically teenagers kind of with their own little civilization going on. And
They're like
yeah, I
Lost
don't know.
Boy
Probably
Ravers is how I
what's
would.
that?
They're like Lost Boy Ravers is how I would describe them.
Yeah. That's fairly accurate. Um, but yeah, so or kind of crusty punks too might work, but a variety, some kind of basically a culture that's entirely a youth subculture
Yeah.
you can go with, but a fairly nihilistic one. And but yeah, that's probably enough for anyone listening to remember what episode we're talking about. So how about you give your opinion here?
I mean, I thought this episode was good. It did a good job of immediately engaging my interest with the whole thing where Chiana walks up to Crichton is like, I need to talk,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, what's going on? And then she cuts her stomach open. And it's like, Jesus, what's going on? Um, so I thought that all worked. I liked that. I liked the planet. I liked the look of the planet. I also liked the change of scenery. Do you know what I mean? It
Mhm.
was just a nice sort of okay. This has immediately made the world a little bit bigger to me, and it's playing with familiar enough tropes that I kind of got into the episode right away because I understood where it was going, but it still had plenty of room to surprise me, and so I thought it was a good episode.
Yeah, I like this one too. Oddly enough, this is actually one of the hated episodes by a lot of fans. But
Really,
yeah, I think the main reason based on what I picked up, I think one of the main reasons people hate it is that the the kids on the planet are also annoying. But I think they're
they're supposed to
supposed to
be.
be.
The guy. Well, here's what I noticed: the guy that they got to play the leader. Not
Yeah.
only is he annoying, he sort of sets off that douchebag alarm. Like he's a
Yeah.
little bit too good looking. He looks kind of like healthy but unhealthy. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
somebody who's physically fit but leads like a very dangerous, reckless life. Do you know? He's got that kind of look down, and he had the drug eyes thing down too. So he just
Yeah.
you react viscerally to him, and you react in a negative way to all of them. But like you said, I think you're meant to. That's the point. You're not supposed to like these people very much.
No, and it's interesting. I like the episode for a number of reasons. I mean, you've kind of got it's interesting dynamic between Chiana and between Crichton, and of course you got Aaron there as kind of the wild card who's kind of taking Chiana. Chiana's got to lead her life, and it's a nice and it has a nice callback to the very first Chiana episode. It's like you can leave the ship anytime you want,
Yep.
and and yeah, I mean it's because I mean Gianna is essentially it's a good episode for kind of regrounding you in the fact that she is this much younger character than
Yeah.
everyone else on the ship, and it gives her a chance to kind of indulge in that a little bit. And I find all the relationships in this episode are very good.
Yeah, in fact, the one part of this episode that I was critical of when it first happened, immediately, not immediately, but got fixed by the end of it. There's a scene where Crichton is offered a mushroom, and there are four stalks, and one of them is death, and the
Yeah.
rest are like a hallucinogenic thing, and you don't know which one of them is poisonous. And the guy, it's kind of like a what was that movie where the guy was buried alive under the in order to find out what
Yeah.
happened to his girlfriend? It's kind of like
Uh, oh man,
you know what I'm talking about,
the
right?
disappearance or something, vanishing,
The Vanishing. I think it's The Vanishing, but you
vanishing
know
is
what I'm
right. Yeah.
talking about, where he has to like put himself in the at the mercy of this guy and make himself very vulnerable to find out what happened to
Yeah.
it's like Drink the Coffee or something. I can't remember. I get the remake and the original confused, but the
I'm with you there. Yeah.
but in this one it was similar, where it's like, well, I'll tell you what's going on if you eat one of these mushrooms, but one of them's going to kill you. There's 25% chance that that's mind-numbingly stupid to do. And
It
and
is.
and 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 I know Crichton kind of does. He's impulsive, like he's definitely established as an impulsive character. But even for an impulsive character, I was like, that is really reckless. But he addresses it later on, where he asks Sun if she thinks he's crazy or he's going crazy, and he's like, I just ate a mushroom that could have killed me. So I felt like it was addressed enough that they were aware that it
Well,
wasn't just they're just doing that for plot convenience. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
and I mean, as you're getting back into the show after a long break, too, remember, we're still only a few episodes away from him being tortured by Scorpius, and
Yeah,
he's been a much more unhinged character than he was through most of
yeah,
season one. He's yeah, like I say, he's always been a little impulsive, but he's been
yeah.
increasingly, as you saw, so that works
And
for
next
me. I mean,
episode, definitely we get a bigger taste
wow.
of yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
uh,
that's just skipping ahead for a second. But yeah, I don't know. I think I actually like this episode despite the internet. The other previous episode that is one of the hated episodes of this show amongst a lot of fans, Jeremiah Crichton. I like this episode a lot better than Jeremiah Crichton. It doesn't
so
have
wait,
any issues I have with that.
which one was Jeremiah Crichton?
That was the one where Crichton gets left behind and he goes on that planet where there's there's the daughter of the chieftain that
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. I remember
and
that.
all those the main problem with that episode is that I find all the extras in that episode, all the guest characters, not extras, the guest characters are all kind of wooden, and I just not interested in any of those characters. Whereas the annoying or not, the characters on this planet are intriguing to me. They feel real to me. They're annoying in a real way, and I like the fact too that once again, the classic, Star Trek science fiction model is you show up on a planet, you fix the problem, and you move on. And it's
Yeah,
like they fixed nothing. It's like they kind of made an attempt to, hey, if you move out of these caves, everything's nope.
yeah.
Nothing's changing. Nothing's any better on that planet. They're all gonna keep dying at like 22. And yeah, okay. That's the way it goes.
But
They're just
but yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I thought it was an entertaining episode, and I liked the character interactions. I liked the world building elements. So I was pretty, and I like the idea of this planetary graveyard like that and the way that it was used. So
yeah.
it worked for me.
The
Um,
thing, the thing, the thing that doesn't work for me on the episode is I think the subplot with Rigel is just like, it's just
yeah,
there's no twist or anything. It's like, oh, he stole the artifacts and they're haunted, and like mildly spooky stuff happens, and then he puts them back, and it's like if there was some twist in there, but it's I mean, it doesn't take up very much of the episode,
yeah.
so it doesn't ruin it for me. But it's just if you cut I almost forgot to talk about it
I
because it's
did.
so
I did.
irrelevant.
Yeah, I did. No, it's not very relevant to the episode. I mean, that's not always bad. Sometimes I get annoyed when they tie the A and the B together too neatly.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Um,
yeah,
but you at least want the B plot to be
good.
something interesting or something that has ramifications beyond this episode for Rigel or just something
Yeah,
that makes it, you know, it makes it engaging. But it didn't really. for a little bit I was intrigued by it, but then once I kind of got where it was going and I where and then saw where it went, it didn't really seem like it
Oh,
had much point.
no.
Um,
Yeah, I mean,
so
I'm a repeat watcher, so I knew from the beginning of the episode this is never going to go anywhere. So
mm,
I didn't have that moment of initial intrigue that's
yeah,
like, ooh, what's going on here? I was just like, oh, it's I'd forgotten about this
yeah,
stupid subplot with him stealing the treasure.
yeah. At the very least, you wanted kind of a cool explanation for why it's doing what it's doing, and you didn't really get a cool explanation. So I think that
Yeah,
that's the part that was really missing from that storyline. If they had given us an intriguing explanation that made it worth our time, then it would have been more entertaining.
yeah, anything, but it just did
Yeah.
not do anything for me. But
Or a conflict of some kind. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
some real
yeah.
conflict. Um,
Yeah, yeah, you know what's going to happen, and it just follows that little arc. And
um,
it's just like they felt like, oh, at the last minute, we've got to have something for the other characters to do on the ship while this is happening. When honestly, it would have been a better episode if they just said, let's just not have Zahn and
yeah.
Dargo and Rigel in this episode.
Well, that's one thing. You don't always have to have the B plot. Sometimes it's not necessary.
No,
So
no,
uh, so yeah, I don't know. Anything else on this episode before we move to the next one, or are you?
that's pretty much all I got to say on that one. Yeah.
So,
So
so why don't you usher in the
crackers don't matter.
crackers don't
Yeah.
matter?
Yeah, that this episode they bring this alien on board who's going to supposedly put this camouflage on their ship so they cannot be tracked, and he takes them through uh, this area of space that's he said tells them can cause lack of judgment in less evolved creatures, and things get crazier and crazier from there. So yeah, what'd you think of this one?
Well, I mean, as I've said before, this sort of premise is always the kind of episode that I find the most frustrating in science fiction shows, where
Uh-huh.
I have to watch the crew fight each other because of some parasite or some. Do you know what I mean? Like those kinds of because every science fiction show has them, and it's really just a question of
True.
how many of these kinds of episodes are we going to get in a given season. So when the episode first started, I was feeling that frustration for like the first 10 minutes or so. Um,
Yeah,
but it managed to do something. I don't know if it was doing anything different or if it just did it better, but I
I think it did
found,
it better
yeah,
myself,
yeah, I
but
found the dialogue more, and it didn't feel like is paint by the numbers for this sort of
I felt
concept. Do you know what I'm
I
saying?
felt yeah, no, I felt like the insanity the characters were engaging in all came out of the characters. It wasn't just we're
Yeah,
going to randomly act evil or randomly going to act whatever. It was just the darker sides of all the actual characters were kind of bubbling out, and the
yeah,
frustrations they have with each other. And it it didn't feel like everybody's not acting like themselves. It was
yeah,
like everyone's acting like themselves in the worst possible way. So
yeah.
it didn't feel like a this doesn't matter episode to me.
Yeah, no, and I think also in the way that they were acting, with maybe the exception of Crichton and Chiana's moment that gets really dark,
That
most
gets
of them,
very
yeah,
dark.
yeah, most of them didn't get into territory where it's like, well, I'm just going to kill everybody and leave. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't. It was a little bit more plausible. Some of the stuff, things that were going on. Like
Yeah.
they believably could have killed each other, but killing each other wasn't the primary thing. It was I got this thing I want to do, and don't get in my way while I'm doing it, sort of a thing. Which
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
find a lot better than like suddenly having Captain Kirk try to kill everybody on the Enterprise. Do you know what I mean? For
Yeah.
some minor prize. Do you know what I mean? Like what I'm saying?
For
Like
over the
yeah, over
crackers.
the crackers. So um, like I could see if they're taking the crackers away from him, but like to go genocidal over it just doesn't make sense. But the scene with Crichton and Chiana that got dark, um,
Yeah.
and so that was almost getting into oh God, what's the I'm drawing a blank on the name of the trilogy. It's very Lord Foul's Bane. It was getting into Lord Foul's Bane type
Ah, yeah,
territory.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Where now I'm like, okay, what is going on with Crichton exactly? Like, I know that they were kind of space mad from whatever that guy was doing to them, but like you said, a lot of it was stuff that was pre-existing coming to the surface. So it makes you,
You wonder what
yeah,
else is going on.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think an episode like this would, that moment would not have played well in the present day, but I feel like it's actually very useful because it really sows this seed of doubt where you're like, okay, what is going on? And now I'm sort of on my toes and alert in a way that
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been if he had done something vaguely transgressive or bad, or it was much more like, oh, I got to keep an eye out on Crichton now. And so I
Yeah.
think I think that uh you know I was developing a sense of ease with the show where it's like, okay, they kind of got into this territory of things are morally ambiguous and you don't know who to trust and all this, but now things have settled. And now I'm realizing, oh no, things haven't. And maybe the guy that I've been sort of, he's the human, he's the person that you're supposed to identify with most because that's who you would be if you were in his situation.
Yeah.
So it feels like the show is turning that on you in a way. And
Yeah. It has him go to the darkest place of
yeah,
any of them.
yeah,
So it's yeah, it's I mean that I think that is one of the strengths of the episodes because it is supposed to be very dark, I think.
yeah,
I don't think it's a case of, unintended doing a dark thing and not realizing it. I think
yeah,
this show knows when it's going somewhere dark.
yeah. No, I agree, and I think it's one of those things where if you are going to go dark, you kind of need to really go dark. Do you know what I mean? There's sort of like there's sort of like the thing that a lot of movies do where they make their bad guys too lovable. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they
Yeah.
don't, and this was very alarming and striking, and so I think that made it very effective. Uh, I also think it was the episode was helped overall by the the villain in this episode was very interesting. I because usually it's like usually when you have episodes like this, it's a threat that's kind of stupid or amorphous in a way that you can't
Yeah,
really.
like little like glowing orbs will like invade the ship or something, and you're
Yeah,
like, whatever.
yeah, it's something that you can't really put a face to. But this was like when the guy is sort of sucking Moya's light, and he's like, "I need more light." You can so easily hate this guy. He's got the punchable face. You know what I mean? He's got the
Yeah, a Henson Creature Shop punchable face that
yeah.
is just, I mean, that's another good thing about this episode. It's always good when you get a
Well,
cool new alien that shows up in
but
this
that was
show.
played by a person, right? Or was that a
Oh,
puppet?
it's a
I.
person, but I'm saying, yeah, Henson
Hmm.
Creature Workshop does the makeup effects
Okay,
and
okay.
everything too, so it's still their deal.
Well, and to be fair, this was the makeup was such that it almost had the effect of a. It
A,
looks. It doesn't.
a puppet head.
Yeah. But yeah, I love that. I loved the way. I love the idea of him just trying to suck the light out of Moya just to increase his power. Is from what it seemed.
I I think I think those things, I think he had like eggs, like there was
Mm,
those little white orb things that were underneath the thing in the middle
mm.
of the room. I think those were like eggs or something, and he needed all the light to try and
Okay.
I don't know, get the eggs to hatch or
Yeah.
something. I don't know. So I think it was some kind of incubation process or something, but I'm not I'm not entirely
Mm.
clear. But it's
And
it's
I
not crucial to understanding it.
but there's a couple of things I liked. So I like that. I liked the way that Pilot was handled in this episode. I thought that was they used him in
Yeah.
a way that made you uneasy and alarmed. The same that Crichton was used in a way that made you uneasy and alarmed, but in a different way. And so I thought that was cool because once Pilot started to be susceptible to this guy's suggestions, you really started to get nervous about how.
Pilot's just such calm, and he's kind of the
Yeah,
one who just, he's just generally gonna help people out, and he doesn't get into the conflicts. And so when
yeah.
he gets paranoid and twisted, you're like, wow.
Well, but the other interesting thing is this is a crew that like they've ripped off his arm, right? Like they've done, or his leg or something. They did something horrible
His
to him.
arm. It
Yeah, it
was
was his
one of his
arm.
arms. Yeah.
He has a lot of reasons where when that scene happens, you're like, wait, this could be like legitimately stuff coming to the surface that's
Yeah.
real. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
uh, it just gave it a little bit more oomph. I also I liked the scene where they were trying to decide who was going to go in, and Crichton they chose Crichton because he basically they said you're a lesser like you're because you're a lesser species. You have weaker eyes and you're not as susceptible to his light stuff. And then they had him
Yeah.
read they said, can you read the inscription on the basin over there? And he couldn't read it.
Well, I liked the effect that had on the whole episode too, because through the whole episode, Crichton is the one who keeps having the most flashes of, wait, what are we doing, guys?
Yeah.
He's the one who's kind of holding it together the most, and usually that would be because Crichton's the hero. He's the one who, he's a human and he's better, so
Yeah.
he's keeping his head together. But no, it's because he just can't see as well as
Yeah.
anyone else, and the
Well,
light's not hitting him as hard.
Well, and the thing that's sort of slowly dawning on you as you watch this is you're like, wait a second, is he legitimately just like because they always kind of make fun of him as being useless and not and that's a science fiction trope where like the human is sort of belittled by the aliens, but then they show off some great
Yeah.
aspect of humanity that trumps all aliens or something. Do you know what I mean? It's just, but it's sort of slowly dawning on me that maybe this guy is uh, never going to have a reveal where the aliens see him for what he is. Maybe they actually do see him for what he is, and that's what's going on. Um, so it's interesting. Do you know what I mean? It raises all kinds of interesting questions. It's uh, you know, a lot of times, sort of inverting tropes in a way can be boring when they're overdone. But this is one that's, I think, it's such an obvious trope that you don't see it, and the way
Yeah.
that they're dealing with it is they haven't quite settled the question. I feel like I'm gonna have to stick around for the whole show before I really understand where they're going with that. And it's used for more than
Yeah.
just being like a running gag. Do you know what I mean? It's not just the thing that allows for the one-liners to be exchanged between Crichton and Dargo or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that overall that's something I like about this show is that it's not like a huge plot arc show in the way of Babylon 5, but the character arcs in this show just feel very consistent. You feel from episode to episode the characters' relationships carry on, and it all kind of hangs together for me.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
in a weird way, it kind of reminds me of some of like the AMC shows that you have today that are very character arc
yeah.
driven. Um, but but yeah, so I don't know. I did enjoy the episode. Again, the first 10 minutes, I was kind of frustrated because the kind of episode it is.
Uh-huh.
And I've noticed that this show's done a good job of that, where it will have a lot of episodes that are the kinds of episodes I normally don't like, and it'll win me over by the end of it. So I kind of have
Yeah.
to begrudgingly like tip my hat to it, where the first what are these 40 so the first quarter of the episode I was like, well, I know which episode I didn't like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm getting my pen ready to write down all my criticisms. But this was a good episode, and even stuff that would normally really annoy me, like when they dress him up so stupidly to go in for the fight. They basically drape him in all this stuff to protect him from the light, but it makes him look like a kid pretending to be a hero. But but that actually fit in well enough with a lot of the themes and stuff that are going on that
Yeah.
I couldn't really be like it wasn't just a bunch of stuff building up to a moment of stupidity. It was a bunch of stuff building up to a moment of stupidity that actually is a reflection of the character's overall journey in the show. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like like
Yeah.
like that's kind like when they did that I was like, that's maybe kind of how they see him. Do you know what I mean? It's
I know. That's why you're totally right. That's why it works. And yeah, and I mean, and I like the final kind of closing note of the show. I mean, Craig kind of ends like, "Wow, how do you put it all back?" It's like it's hammering the point home that yeah, people were kind of out of their heads, but they did do all this stuff, and you can't just go, "Oh well, we were just it's it's not, it's, well, I mean, you have the scene between Dargo and Rigel too. It's like Rigel doesn't go, "Oh yeah, I forgive you, man. You were, it was the light. Well, it wasn't, it's cool." It's like, yeah, not now.
Yeah, that is one thing I'm noticing. It doesn't do the reset button that a lot of these shows do, where the next episode, if this was Star Trek, you know that you'd have no idea that what happened had just occurred. Do you know what I mean? We
Yeah.
wouldn't, unless it was, important to like the season or something. But in this show, I feel like even if it's not directly mentioned, it's going to inform how the characters interact.
Yeah.
So, I think that's a solid thing. Um, so yeah, I don't know any other thoughts or feelings about this episode.
No, I mean, and as I mentioned, the previous one was one of the most hated episodes. This is one of the most beloved episodes of the series. And but one thing that annoys me about people with this episode, though, is that a lot of people will go, "Well, this is the best episode. This is the episode you should show your friends, to sell them on the show." And it's like, no, you don't show them the episode where everyone's acting crazy and the craziness comes out of the things you know about the character, but they're
Yeah,
not acting like. It's like I can't think of a worse. It's a good episode, but it's not. It's not an introductory
yeah,
episode, and that takes me to bring in Star Trek Next Generation. One of the things, the first season of Star Trek Next Generation, even amongst fans, is considered a terrible
yeah,
season by
yeah,
a lot of people. And one of the dumbest things it did the everyone's crazy and acting drunk episode as the second
yeah,
episode of the show. It's
yeah.
like, why? Why are you doing that before anyone even really is attached to these characters? Yeah. Whereas here they waited till the second season before they even pulled this one out. But I just had to get that off
No,
my
yeah, no.
chest.
I have
Do not show this to your friends as the first episode of the show to sell them on it,
I I
even though it
def
is very good.
I definitely remember that first season. Uh,
Sorry, didn't
the
mean to bring back
No, it's
bad.
fine. I mean, I like Star Trek. I enjoy it, but like it has its warts, you know. Um,
Yeah,
the Yeah, I wouldn't recommend showing this to people as a first episode for a lot of reasons. The ones you mentioned, but also I think this is the kind of episode that if it's not a very good overall indication of everything that you're going to get in the show. Do you know what I mean?
no,
Like
no,
it's something that works because you like the show and you're interested in the characters. But like it's just not. It has a lot. Like that scene with Crichton dressed up ridiculously. That's going to play a lot differently to somebody that isn't invested in the show and doesn't know the threads leading up to it. It's going to have a whole different tone to it. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
And also it's a risky tone to use as a lead into a show because it that could potentially turn off a lot of viewers who might think, "Oh, this is a ridiculous TV show. I'm not going to watch it." Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Um,
Well, it's both sillier than the show usually is and darker than the show
yeah.
usually is, which means it could go wrong in two ways.
Yes.
Someone might, hit the Chiana Crichton scene and be like, "Whoa, this is," not realize it's just a particularly
Yeah.
dark moment. Might think, "Whoa, I don't think I watch this."
Also,
But
also Crichton, the acting is a little over the top. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like
yeah,
it. If you haven't been with this guy the whole way, and that's your first introduction to him, that could really turn you off to the show. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
so yeah, I agree 100% with you. I mean, I enjoyed the episode; it won me over. But I think there are other episodes that I've seen so far. I'd be like, this is the episode I would probably show somebody to give them a sense of what this show. I think this kind of show you kind of have to show somebody at least two episodes because you might want to
yeah,
give them this is a taste of when the show goes in this direction and here's what the show feels like overall.
yeah.
That's probably
And I
a
mean, and honestly, I think it's a show that's best, even though the first part of season one isn't the show at its best. I think it is best just to take the ride with the show. It's
yeah.
just because the pilot actually I think is good. I think the pilot's good, and you just go with it because it pays off. I think.
And I guess
But
the next episode we're doing will be what the way we weren't. Is that the the
The Way
next
We Weren't is the next one. Yeah, I'm not sure what the episode after. What's the episode after that? That's
picture, if you will.
okay. Okay. So yeah, we'll
That
have
one, I accidentally just read the description of it. It sounds very intriguing, but well, it also
uh,
sounds like one that could go any number of directions. Um, I should have known Crackers Don't Matter was successful because it's one of the only episodes, maybe even the only one that has a Wikipedia entry on this list. It's one of two
yeah.
from this season.
That's a spoiler there that it's got a
Yeah,
Wikipedia
yeah,
page. But
yeah. It's funny all the little things you can read into when you're looking at a list like this on Wikipedia about the.
yeah, well, like I said, a lot of these are really bad spoilers though in
Mm.
here. but,
Well, no, I'm just
I,
talking just structurally by the fact that it has an entry that we can sort of you could sort of intuit a lot from that already. So
yeah, yeah. But it's but yeah, there's a lot that goes but a lot of these ones give, like some of these little synopses here are like, oh, that's the whole episode. But but yeah, the but yeah, I don't know. So that's we'll be back hopefully very soon, not close to as long as between the last
no, we'll
episode we did a review of this show.
no, I think we'll find our traction again after this viewing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and and yeah, so and hopefully we'll be able to do some periodic science fiction movies like we did with Interstellar recently. I thought that was kind of
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
looking forward
I
to
have
that.
some I have some movies and books that I'd like to tackle in the future at some point. But but I wanna if we do movies, I want them to be movies of that caliber. Do you know what I mean? I want movies that are uh, that rise to a certain level of like 75% freshness or something. Do you know what I mean? In terms of
Something, yeah,
you
yeah,
know
I understand. Yeah, no, we had a surprisingly long conversation about Interstellar. That was definitely a movie to talk about.
yeah. So so yeah, so we'll be back on and we will talk to you later, and I hope everybody has a great day.